Hello and welcome to another episode of Atomic Vinyl Reviews. My name's Jacob and today we will be taking a look at the brand new wdragon Godzilla 2004 figure from the 2004 movie Godzilla Final Wars. For the regular viewers who may have come back, and if you are one of those, then I am so appreciative of that. That is awesome. Because I have not filmed or put out a video in like half a year, give or take a few months. I'm not even sure at this point. It's been a long time, and I might go a bit into that towards the end of the video, but I'll just quickly say I've just kind of had a bit of a rough time personally, and I just decided to drop putting out these videos for a while until was kind of ready to come back to it, and I don't know if I'm there yet, but I figured that I should really do a video on this guy because I don't think anyone has as of yet, not that I've seen, and this is a fantastic figure, and I'm gonna say it, I'm really impressed with the stuff that wdragon is putting out, because I actually did get the King Ghidorah 2019 from Godzilla King of the Monsters, their version of Ghidorah, and I really wanted to do a video on that thing because it was awesome. So I figured, you know what, this thing finally arrived, no one else has put up a video about it, I'll give it a whirl, I'll see what I can do. So, this is a 30 centimeter scale vinyl figure, so it's very similar to your typical X Plus type figure. In fact, I'll bring in an X Plus version of this guy later on. However, he's actually made of a much denser, thicker plastic. He feels quite hefty. Still hollow, but I could imagine that the thickness of the plastic averages like about half a centimeter, give or take, rather than a few millimeters like a typical X Plus figure would. Obviously, I haven't cut into him to know exactly how thick the plastic is, but it feels quite sturdy, so he's got some fair amount of plastic to him, which is really, really cool. Actually, before we get into the figure himself, let's quickly get the box out of the way, because I don't normally really focus on the box in my videos, but I really love the box that this guy came in. So, as you can see, huge box, and got a really, really cool shot of the face of the figure up front here. Just, it looks like a poster for the movie, and that's really great. As you can tell by the size of the box, he actually came fully assembled, so you didn't have to disassemble anything or put the tail on or nothing like that, so that's really cool. Although I have kind of mixed feelings on that, because on the one hand, seam line wise, this guy is immaculate. There are seam lines, but they're barely noticeable, and one of the major advantages of having like a box this big is that. But obviously, like, shipping prices and whatnot are going to be an issue with something this big. But regardless, yeah, really nice front of the box here, or back, whatever side that is. We got another shot from below of the figure here, looking great. We got the wdragon logo. So for those of you who don't know, I think wdragon's a Chinese company. I might be confusing them with Nanmu, which also is a Chinese company. I don't know, but probably judging by the writing there. But that's yeah, wdragon's logo. They are known for making like dinosaur figures, like Jurassic Park kind of knockoff dinosaurs, but like really high quality. I have a T-Rex up here near Alf and Jet Jaguar, the Jurassic Park Rexy here, which I really love this figure. It's a great version of Rexy. Actually, the same day that I got that new Final Wars Godzilla, I also got this lovely Nanmu T-Rex as well, which is very, very cool. Anyhow, so they're known for that stuff, but yeah, recently they've seemed to have got into the Godzilla game, which is fantastic, because from what I can see with this figure, I have some really high expectations coming up for their future releases, which is very exciting, because this thing is X Plus scale. Detail-wise and sculpt-wise, I would say this is probably above X plus. Maybe the sharpness of the details isn't quite there in like the scales as much, but the accuracy of this sculpt is phenomenal actually. I haven't like done any measurements or anything like that, but I have like opened up photos and stuff of the actual suit and compared this one as well as a bunch of other figures, which I will bring in shortly. And this one definitely is one of the more screen accurate figures of this guy, which is awesome. So let's actually take a nice close look at the details. We'll start at the focal point of the figure, which is the head. So this version of Godzilla is a very unique design, very slimmed down. I've had mixed feelings about this design, but given the movie and how much I love it, I completely adore this version of Godzilla. He's just so cool in that movie that despite this design being actually quite weird for a Godzilla with this very slimmed down physique, it really works for the film and was really cool. So you will notice he does have quite a small head, which is, from some angles, I find that maybe it looks a little too small, but on closer inspection with like photos and stills from the film, it's actually pretty spot on, I'd say. And really captures the look that this version of Godzilla had in the film. This more sort of cat-like or almost rat-like appearance to his face. Really cool. Got those glossy red eyes, beautifully detailed mouth. I'm sorry the focus isn't like super amazing. Hopefully you can get it there. Really captured the look excellently with the sculpt here. Got the lovely detailing down his neck with the different sort of scales. His little ears. Again, those eyes, which are, you know, looking dead on straight ahead in that menacing way that he did in the movie. Oh, sorry, seeing Hendrix there. Back to the figure. Yeah, really nice. One thing that you'll kind of notice about this figure, and it'll become more noticeable when I bring in some of the other figures, is he is done in more sort of a lighter gray than I initially imagined, or I'm used to seeing for this particular Godzilla, because I do remember him being quite dark in the film, yet here this figure is comparatively light to some other Godzilla figures, which, you know, isn't an issue in my book, but it does make him stand out a little bit amongst some of the other figures. Anyway, let's keep looking around at the spines, for example, because this version of Godzilla has these really sort of slimmed down but pointy sort of spines, very reminiscent of the Showa era, but less rounded and sort of more smaller and pointy. So they're kind of like a little amalgamation of a few different designs, I'd say. Looking really well done here. As you can see, they have that nice frosted look. They really did give off that impression that they were really sort of white and frosty in the movie. I might just be giving them that characteristic because there was a lot of shots of Godzilla in the South Pole and in the ice in that movie. But the spines, I think they capture them really well here. Each one's individually sculpted and separate, all nice, and there's very subtle seam lines there, but they're barely visible. So they did a really clean job of putting together this figure, which is really nice. Got that beautiful scaling and his lovely grasping hands, which I love this sort of splayed pose on these, because this version of Godzilla has very distinctive hands and this sort of very distinctive shoulders as well, just very prominent sort of build to him. And they look really great. I love the weathered bone, sort of orangey, yellow, brown tone they chose for them, which is quite accurate to the film, I believe. Then we got his legs, and the underside of his tail, and his feet here. Again, really accurate and looking really good. And I love the glossiness of those nails and the contrast that gives, and they're just painted beautifully. So, really quality stuff from wdragon on this figure. Really love that. And of course, got the big tail here, which is nice and long, very well proportioned for this figure. Painted really well. with the little spines all the way down to the end. There we go, we got it in focus. Looking really, really nice. And one of the great things is that wdragon is also putting out a Godzilla 2... Oh, pardon, that's my doggy. You may have seen her in other videos. It's a little Coffee. Hey, Coffee, you're on film. Yeah. She's a good girl. So she's doing good, just to show you guys. Sorry, where was I? Oh yeah, the Godzilla 2000 figure. I've already got that pre-ordered, and I'm so excited for that one, seeing how good this figure is. Coffee, did you not? Okay. Anyway, the interesting thing is X Plus is putting out a favorite sculptors line version of the Godzilla 2000 suit that apparently is like made using a scan of the actual suit, so it's going to be super accurate. And I've looked at photos of both, and I'm actually torn on which one I think is going to be better, because they're both really looking accurate with that 2000 suit, and I don't really have like a version of the 2000 design in that scale or anything, so I've actually got both on pre-order, so I might do a comparison of those if I don't cancel any of the orders or anything like that. I'm really looking forward to those, and just anything else that wdragon puts out in the future, because again, the Ghidorah figure is fantastic. At the moment, it's my best representation of the King of the Monsters version of Ghidorah. I might just show it to you guys really briefly, so hold on. So here's my wdragon King Ghidorah figure, and yeah, this figure is magnificent. The best version of this Ghidorah that I've seen in figure form that isn't like, you know, Spiral Studios or something like super expensive. And this one is smaller than I expected. I thought this one would actually be comparable to the 25 centimeter scale X Plus, given the measurements. This is actually more in scale with, say, the Haya figures. So when Haya puts out their Ghidorah, I will be really interested to see how it compares to this statue version, but I think it actually scales really well, at least from my memory, with the Haya Godzilla here, which is, again, great figure of the Legendary Pictures Godzilla. So yeah, that just gives you a little idea of some more work from wdragon, which fittingly is a dragon. Beautiful figure. Finally, I have a version of this Ghidorah where the heads are correct, because the Monster Arts one fucked up, and that pisses me off quite a lot, because when you get a Ghidorah figure, for example, you want it to be good, because Ghidorahs are just known to be expensive based on how big they are. I don't want to have to get more Ghidorah figures to just have a good one if the Monster Arts one was inadequate, but that's the situation we're in. But I've got this one now, and I'm very satisfied. But yeah, I will try and get that Haya one as well when that one comes out, because that one is relatively affordable compared to this one and the Monster Arts one, and it's looking great as well, so I'll be really curious. But yeah, let's go back to Final Wars Godzilla. So there's a little Coffee again, just staring at me because she has no idea what I'm doing, because I haven't made a video like this in a very long time, since she was a very small puppy. Let's get back to this. So I'm gonna bring in a few other figures just to compare with this guy, so you can really get a good sense of the scale and the feel of this figure. First, we got the Monster Arts, which I don't remember if I did a video on, or if I got it during the time where I wasn't making the videos, because it's been a long time. But I really like this figure. This is a great figure, which I was so happy that they put out, because again, I do love this version of Godzilla, and it's one of the more unique ones. And I mainly collect Monster Arts figures. If I will get the occasional other X Plus or something like this, but my main staple is the Monster Arts line. So this one was really cool, but especially since it is at this scale and they had to kind of butcher the sculpt a little bit to get it to function as a figure, It can sometimes make it look a little off in certain angles or in certain poses and whatnot. I am still leaning to the wdragon one as like my definitive Final Wars Godzilla, despite the obvious beautiful sculpt of this guy here. I actually have one of the original 6-inch Bandai vinyls here from like when the film came out, Final Wars. But I also have the recently re-released version of it here. I think they're pretty much the same like mold, so no real differences, just some subtlety with the paint, especially on the spines. You can see it's a little bit more liberally sprayed on the older version here. And obviously the new one has a tag. And the Final Wars Bandai vinyls are actually really decently made. So they actually look really convincing as a version of this Godzilla. I'm sorry, they're out of focus. There you go. So yeah, I really like these, but you know, obviously being Bandai vinyls, they have their, I'm not gonna say issues, but just their character to them with like the blocky teeth and the softer, not necessarily softer details, but kind of the limitations that they could make a figure like this compared to something a little bit more premium feeling like this one here. And cool thing is, I also have the big, I don't think they were calling it King Series version back then, but like the big 8-inch version. I don't know how big it is exactly, but I got the bigger version right here. So yeah, pretty much the same figure, as you can see, but just at a bigger scale, and they look great together. They're both really, really good representations of this guy. And you can see this one's got more of the slightly bigger head in proportion, and just, it's a little bit more stylized, I'd say. Like the wdragon one really looks like a guy in a suit. It's got that feel to it, especially if the legs, they, I don't know, the angle of them or something like that really gives it that feel. And you can already see the gray is a little lighter on the wdragon than this one here, although, you know, the camera is going to sort of accentuate and morph things color-wise a little bit, so in person might be a little different to what you guys are seeing on screen, but both of them look good. Let's just put it that way. So I'm gonna bring in probably the best comparison to this guy, which is the actual 30 centimeter scale X Plus. So I've had this guy for quite a while now, and this is a great figure. However, once I actually put these two together, it kind of made the X Plus look a little derpy in a few ways. Like, I do actually kind of like the bigger head on the X Plus. I think it just kind of, design-wise, I lean towards that sort of preference. I like it a little more, I think, but I don't know, it has that slightly more stylized, cartoonish look, a little bit more similar to like the Playmates figure, which I do have, but I don't actually have it on hand. So there is like that 12-inch scale Playmates figure as well. This just gives you an idea of how these two scale. So the wdragon one is definitely like 30 centimeters in scale, but like this one having the bigger head kind of gives it like a weird proportion feeling where you're not really sure which one's in a bigger scale. Because this one's almost sort of crouched down a bit lower, but has sort of bigger features, but overall is shorter, whereas this one has the more proportioned features, but is like taller anyway, especially with the bigger legs there. And I also wanted to show off, he's got a really nice action pose with his foot there, leaning his weight towards his other leg there, so his toes are sort of pushing off the ground with his heel up there. I think that's a really nice detail that they added to the sculpt. Just give him a little bit more of an action pose. That's really cool. Actually, in not all that dissimilar poses, as you can see from this angle, aside from the tail there. I do like that the original X Plus does have the sort of purpley color in the mouth, and again, my camera's not focusing when it should because bloody Jimi Hendrix is in the corner absorbing that focus. Come on. There we go. So he does have that sort of purpley color, which I'm not entirely sure if it was exactly accurate to the film or maybe more the promotional materials, but that is like a cool detail of this figure that makes it a little unique. Whereas this version has a more sort of maroon red, just like a dark fleshy tone for the tongue. But damn, that mouth is actually painted up and done up really nicely with the teeth and everything. That is really cool. Yeah, that just gives you an idea. And also this one, yeah, is much lighter, thinner plastic, and looks and feels more hand sculpted, that you can really see the sculpted detail. Like this is something that somebody like carved out of clay. So it's got that personality to it. Whereas this one is like, it even could be made from a scan of the suit. Like, who knows? Or it could be digitally sculpted. I would assume, like, these days a lot of stuff is done digitally. You never know, actually, these days. A good way of telling is a lot of digitally sculpted things are very, very mirror image. They're very, very symmetrical, even down to all the tiny detail work. And this one doesn't seem to have that, so either the person who sculpted it like actually went in and did that digitally, or this is also like hand rendered, or it's a scan of the suit, or who knows. Regardless, really, really great sculpt on this thing. Actually, speaking of like things looking too mirror image when they're digitally rendered, that's like a little nitpick I have with the new Godzilla -1 design. Yeah, I've not talked about this thing because I have not made any videos in the entire time that this thing was announced, or since the Gamera anime came out, or that Kong Skull Island show on Netflix, the cartoon, or geez, a whole bunch of other things. I also got you know, another Gamera 3 and Legion here, which is really awesome, and just a whole bunch of stuff I missed out on, guys, that I really would have normally been covering, but yeah, yeah, I'm not gonna get into it just yet. But yeah, one of the little nitpicks I have with this design is, you know, regardless of anything else about the design, is that you can see that it's very mirror image. This thing was 100% like made in like CAD, or like one of those digital sculpting 3D computer programs. And the way they do it is they sculpt one half and it's just automatically mirrored. And so you have like a full creature sculpt by the end of it, but you're left with, like, from the front, just this really uncanny sort of, Sorry about that, guys. I ran out of memory on my phone and I just deleted some stuff just to film this last bit, so, I'll really, really rush this and just say fantastic work from wdragon, and I highly recommend you get this, and I highly anticipate their upcoming figures, because this is just a really great start to what could be a line that could really challenge X+, because this is great. A bye from me, and a little bye from a little coffee here. Coffee, say bye-bye. Thank you guys again for sticking around and coming back to my channel. So, yeah, all the best, and may all your vinyl be irradiated vinyl. Woof woof.